Okay, let's unpack this. Navigating the world of car ownership can feel, well, like stepping into a maze sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're dealing with official rules.
Yeah, maybe you're getting your first vehicle, or perhaps you've just moved to a place like New York State and the whole process feels totally new. It can honestly be a little daunting figuring out exactly what's required of you.
It really can. The rules are there for good reasons, of course, but wading through that official language, it can be tough. And, getting these steps wrong can lead to real headaches down the line.
Exactly. And that's why we're doing this deep dive today, going straight to the source. We're looking at Chapter 3, Owning a Vehicle, from the New York State Driver's Manual.
Think of it as the official blueprint.
Right, for what it means to be a vehicle owner in the Empire State.
And our mission really is to take this sometimes dense official text and kind of translate it. We want to pull out those absolute crucial nuggets you need to know about your responsibilities.
Whether you own, register, or maybe even just drive a car here.
Exactly. We're going to try and make sense of the core requirements: registration, title, insurance, and inspection.
Yeah, the goal here isn't really about passing some test. It's more about cutting through the complexity. We want to give you a clear, well-informed picture of what the state actually requires.
Understanding the why and the how straight from the book.
Let's unpack this official stuff together.
Okay, so right from the jump, the manual lays down this fundamental principle. It puts the responsibilities squarely on you.
Mhm.
Whether you own, register, or are just driving a vehicle registered in New York, you are responsible for making absolutely sure it's registered, insured, and inspected.
Before it even touches a public road.
Before it goes anywhere near one, yeah.
That is crystal clear. Like,
Yeah.
no wiggle room there. The buck really stops with you.
It does. And the manual makes a really important distinction early on, one that sometimes trips people up.
What that?
Registration versus title. Registration is what allows you to legally operate the vehicle on public roads, but the title certificate, that's different. That's your legal proof of ownership. They are not the same thing.
That's key. Title proves it's yours. Registration proves you can drive it legally on the road. Makes sense.
And here's a slightly quirky detail from the manual. You have to be at least 16 years old to register a vehicle in New York.
16, okay.
But you can actually title a vehicle, prove ownership at any age.
Any age. That is interesting. So technically, like, a 5-year-old could own a car, but couldn't put plates on it.
Correct. They could inherit it, for instance, and hold the title, but they couldn't register it until they turned 16.
Got it. That clarifies things. And for anyone listening who's recently moved or maybe thinking about moving to New York, there's a crucial deadline mentioned.
Yes, very important. Once you establish residency here, you have 30 days, just 30 days to get your vehicle registered in New York.
That's a pretty strict deadline. You really don't want to miss that because the clock starts ticking the moment you're considered a resident, right?
Absolutely. It's one of those first hurdles for New Yorkers. Now, let's talk about the actual process of getting that registration. The main form you'll need is the Vehicle Registration Title Application. You'll probably see it referred to as MV82.
MV82. Okay, that's the starting point. So what other essential things do you absolutely must have ready when you go to register?
Well, this is where the manual gets pretty detailed because the proof of ownership needed varies quite a bit. It depends heavily on how and where you actually bought the vehicle. It's probably the most complex part.
Let's try to break it down then. What if you buy from a dealer right here in New York State? A registered dealer.
Okay. If it's a brand new vehicle, you'll need the manufacturer's certificate of origin, sometimes called an MCO.
MCO, okay.
And the dealer's certificate of sale. That dealer form is the MV50.
Got it. And for a used car from an NY dealer?
For a used vehicle from that same NY dealer, you need the previous owner's certificate of title, that's Form MV999, which should be properly signed over to the dealer. Plus, you need the odometer and salvage disclosure statements completed, and again, the dealer's MV50 form.
So similar, but with the title instead of the MCO.
Exactly. And the manual really stresses checking all these documents carefully before you leave the dealership, especially if you're the one handling the registration yourself, not letting the dealer do it. Little errors here can cause big problems later.
Always smart to double check everything before you sign. Okay, what if you bought the car from a dealer outside of New York?
Right, an out-of-state dealer purchase, generally you'll need the title or maybe a transferable registration that was signed over to that dealer by the previous owner. Plus, you'll need the bill of sale or the invoice from the out-of-state dealer made out to you.
Okay. And then the one that probably puts the most responsibility on the buyer buying from a private seller.
Yes, this one definitely puts more of the burden on you, the buyer. For a used vehicle from a private seller, you absolutely must get the original certificate of title, the MV999, and make sure it's signed over correctly to you by the seller.
That original title is crucial.
It is, though for really old models, like 1972 or older, they might have a transferable registration instead of a title, but that's, less common these days.
Okay, so that covers the proof of ownership piece, which clearly varies. What's the next non-negotiable proof you need?
Proof of insurance. You absolutely must have liability insurance that meets New York's minimum
I'll
requirements.
not skip that.
No way. When you get coverage, your insurance provider gives you 2 insurance identification cards, and the manual is very clear on this. The names on these cards and the vehicle identification number, the VIN, must exactly match the information on your registration application, the MV82.
Exactly match. Okay, no room for typos there.
None. You give one card to the DMV when you register, and you keep the other one in the vehicle.
Makes sense. And then, of course, taxes.
Right. Can't forget sales tax. If you buy from an NY registered dealer, they generally handle collecting and remitting the sales tax.
That's convenient.
It is. But if you buy from a private seller, you are responsible for figuring out and paying the tax. You'll need to complete a specific form for this. The Statement of Transaction Sale or Gift of Motor Vehicle. That's DTF 802.
DTF 802.
Yes. This form helps determine the sales tax based on the purchase price you list, or potentially the vehicle's fair market value, if maybe you got it below market value, or as a gift from someone who is with family.
Ah, so if you buy it cheap from a friend, the state might tax you based on what they think it's actually worth.
That's the idea, yes. The buyer fills out their section, and the seller needs to complete and sign their part too, especially if it's a gift or sold below market, to help establish the basis for the tax.
Okay, and you also need proof of your own identity and date of birth, right? That 6-point ID system.
Correct. Proof of name adding up to 6 points, and proof of date of birth. And alongside the ownership proof, you'll also need any required odometer and/or damage disclosure statements.
Which brings us to something the manual gives a pretty serious warning about: liens. What exactly is a lien, and why is this such a big deal?
A lien basically means someone else besides the seller still has a financial interest in the car. Typically, it's a bank or a lender because there's still an outstanding loan on it.
Okay.
And the manual is really blunt here. If the title shows a lien, you must get official proof from the lender, like a formal lien release letter, proving the loan has been fully paid off and the lien is satisfied.
And if you don't?
If you don't get that proof, the lien holder could potentially repossess the vehicle, even after you've paid the seller and registered it in your name.
Wow, that is terrifying. Imagine buying a car and then just losing it because of someone else's old debt.
It's one of the biggest financial risks when buying used, especially privately. And the manual adds that the DMV is super strict about the title itself. They won't accept titles if there are incorrect names or altered signatures, erasures, cancellations, any funny business on the document.
They want that chain of ownership clear and totally clean on the title certificate.
Exactly. Now, about those disclosure statements we mentioned, odometer and damage, the manual gets specific about which ones are required based on the vehicle's age.
Right. It gets a little detailed here. Let's try to simplify that.
Okay, the general idea is the newer the car, the more disclosures are needed. Makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for vehicles that are 8 model years old or newer,
8 years or newer.
both the odometer reading and any damage disclosure statements are required. The seller fills these out, and you, the buyer, have to sign them right there on the certificate of title itself, the MV999. This is also how the DMV figures out if the title needs to be branded rebuilt salvage.
Okay, both disclosures for 8 years or newer. What about slightly older cars? Let's say 9 or 10 years old.
Good question. If you're buying a vehicle that's 10 model years old or newer, but older than 8 model years from a private seller.
So model year 9 or 10.
Yes. Then only the odometer statement is required on the back of the title, MV999. The state doesn't require the damage disclosure for vehicles 9 model years old or older in that private sale context, but as the buyer, you still have to initial the odometer box on the title to acknowledge the reading.
Okay, so 8 years or newer need both odometer and damage disclosure signed on the title. 9 or 10 years old from a private seller, just the odometer on the title back initialed by buyer. Got it.
It's specific, yeah, but important for accuracy and transparency. And speaking of rebuilt salvage, The manual has another significant warning there.
Oh,
Any vehicle that's described as rebuilt salvage or has similar wording must be examined by the DMV. They need to check it for stolen parts before they will issue a New York title or registration for it.
that sounds like a potentially big hassle, an extra examination
It
step.
is an extra step, yeah.
What if you're buying a vehicle that already has a rebuilt salvage title from another state?
The manual advises you to contact the NYDMV beforehand to get guidance. The process might be slightly different, but that requirement for a stolen parts examination is still definitely there.
Okay, so after navigating all that paperwork, proving everything, getting the disclosures right, checking for lenses, what do you actually walk away with when you successfully register?
You get your vehicle plates, the registration document itself, and a registration sticker. That sticker goes either on your windshield or on the plates. It depends on the type of vehicle.
And inspection. Does it need to be inspected right away, or?
It depends on where you bought it. If you buy a vehicle that's sold in New York State, it needs to have a valid inspection.
Okay.
Now, if you bought it from a New York dealer, they're actually required by law to get it inspected within 30 days before they sell it to you. So it should already have a valid sticker when you drive off the lot.
Right. The dealer takes care of that pre-sale.
Hmm.
But what if you buy from a private seller in NY, or maybe from an out-of-state dealer?
Then the responsibility falls on you. You need to get it inspected within 10 days after you register it.
10 days.
Yes. And when you're at the DMV registering it, you should definitely ask for a 10-day time extension sticker. The form number is VS1077. That sticker legally covers you for that short period until you can get the inspection done.
VS1077.
Mm-hmm.
Good tip. And what about those new residents we talked about earlier, bringing their car in?
Right. If you move to NY with a car that has a valid out-of-state inspection, that inspection is honored here for a while. It's valid until its original expiration date or for 1 year from the date it was issued, whichever comes first.
Whichever is sooner.
Exactly. After that point, you're on the hook for getting a New York inspection.
Now, it's worth mentioning, NY dealers can make this whole registration process easier, right? Like, they can handle the paperwork for you.
Oh, absolutely. They often do. They can issue you temporary registration and plates right there so you can drive the car home legally, and then they submit all the paperwork to the DMV for you.
And they can charge for that service.
Yes, they are allowed to charge you fees for handling this service, on top of the regular state fees for the registration, the plates, and the title itself.
Okay. And the actual title certificate, that crucial proof of ownership document that doesn't come immediately with the plates and registration paper?
No, that's mailed out separately by the state. The manual says you should expect it several weeks after your registration is processed, so don't panic if you don't get it right away.
Good to know. All right, let's talk money, the fees involved.
Okay. For most standard vehicles, passenger cars, light trucks under 18,000 pounds, the registration is usually valid for 2 years. The fee itself is primarily based on the vehicle's weight.
Weight-based, okay.
And then there are separate additional fees for the license plates themselves and for issuing the title certificate.
And what about refunds? Let's say you register a car and then, I don't know, change your mind or sell it really quickly.
Refunds. Here's a very strict rule straight from the manual. You cannot get a refund of the registration fees if you have used the plates or the sticker at all, even for just 1 day.
Wow. 1 day of use and the fee is non-refundable.
That's what it says. However, if you return your plates and sticker completely unused within 60 days of when you registered, you can get a full refund minus a small processing fee.
Okay, unused is the key there.
Absolutely. And you might be able to get a partial refund specifically for the second year of a 2-year registration fee if you only use the plates during the first year and then you return them before the second year starts.
That's specific. So using them even once basically voids the main refund for that period. What's absolutely essential if you do return plates for any reason?
You absolutely must get a DMV universal receipt when you surrender them. The form number is FS6T. This receipt is your official proof that you turn the plates back in.
FS6T. Why is that so important?
Because without it, the state might still think those plates are active and registered to you. If something happens involving those plates later, or if there are insurance issues, that receipt proves you are no longer responsible for them after that date.
So that FS6T sounds like your essential get-out-of-jail-free card for return plates. Keep that safe.
Definitely.
What about transferring plates? Like from an old car you're getting rid of to a new one you just bought?
Yes, New York allows that. You can transfer your registration from a vehicle you're disposing of to a replacement vehicle you acquire. And you'll actually get credit for any unused time, the fee remaining on your current registration.
Oh, that's good. You don't lose that money.
Right. But the manual is clear. You can only transfer it to a replacement vehicle. You can't just transfer that credit to, say, another car you already own and have registered separately.
Okay, only to the replacement. And a final massive point of warning from the manual: when you get rid of a vehicle, whether you sell it, trade it in, junk it, donate it.
This is critical, so important. Before you hand over the keys and the car to anyone, a buyer, a dealer, a scrapyard, anyone, you must remove your vehicle plates and also scrape off the windshield registration sticker.
Must remove them yourself.
Why? Because if you don't, and that car later gets a parking ticket or runs a toll without paying, or worse, gets involved in something illegal, those tickets and violations will be linked to you through those plates that are still technically registered in your name. It can cause huge problems.
Seriously, take those plates off immediately. Like, put them in your trunk right now if you're even thinking about selling your car soon.
It's the safest way.
Okay, so we've covered getting the car initially set up with title, registration, insurance proof, etc. Now let's talk about keeping it legal, ongoing registration renewal.
All right. As we mentioned, most vehicle registrations are valid for 2 years. The DMV does try to help you out here. They typically mail a renewal reminder notice about 45 to 60 days before your registration is actually due to expire.
Okay, a reminder usually comes, but there's a huge catch to just relying on that reminder showing up, isn't there?
Absolutely. The manual states this very clearly, and it's vital to remember. You are solely responsible for knowing your registration expiration date and renewing it on time.
So I didn't get the reminder in the mail is not a valid excuse.
Not at all. You cannot use that excuse. And they even list reasons why you might not get one. Maybe you moved and didn't update your address with the DMV. Maybe you have 3 or more unpaid parking tickets. Or maybe your registration is currently suspended or revoked for some other reason.
Lots of reasons it might not arrive.
Exactly. So the advice is check your current registration document or look it up on the DMV website if you're unsure of the expiration date. Don't just wait for a postcard that might never come.
Good advice. Now, what if your registration expiration date falls, say, on a Saturday or a state holiday?
Ah, yes, the manual gives you a tiny bit of grace there. If the expiration date lands on a weekend or a legal New York State holiday, your registration is automatically extended until midnight of the very next business day.
Okay, a small buffer.
But, and this is important, you must keep your liability insurance active during that brief extension period. The insurance requirement doesn't get extended.
Insurance must always be continuous.
No.
Got it. So if the postcard doesn't come, or maybe you just prefer other methods, how can you renew your registration?
You have a few options. First, you can renew by mail. You'll need to fill out that MV82 form again, the Vehicle Registration Title application.
The same form as the initial registration.
Yes. Now, here's a tricky point. If you want the renewed registration document mailed to a different address than the official one the DMV has on file for you, let's say, you want it sent to your work address, just this once you have to include a separate note with your application requesting that specific mailing address.
A separate note. Why not just put the temporary address on the MV82 form?
Because if you just put the different mailing address on the MV82 form itself, the DMV will take that as a request to permanently update your official record to that address.
Ah, okay. Good distinction. A separate note is key for a temporary mailing address for the renewal.
Exactly. Then you send the form along with a check or money order payable to the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles.
How do you figure out the correct fee?
You can find the fee using the Schedules of Registration Fees, which is Form MV204A. It's available at DMV offices, or you can find it on the DMV website.
Yeah.
Also, one more thing for mail renewal. If you've switched insurance companies since your last registration and you haven't already responded to a DMV inquiry letter about that change, you'll need to include your new insurance identification card with your mailed application.
Okay. And where do you mail it?
You send it all to the Utica Processing Center. The address is in the manual and on the website. The manual says to allow about 2 weeks for processing when you renew by mail.
And what if your name has changed legally since your last registration, like through marriage or something?
If your name has legally changed and you haven't updated it with the DMV already, you can't just renew by mail or online. You'll need to visit a DMV office in person and provide proof of your new name and identity.
Okay, mail is one option. What about renewing online? Is that possible?
Yes, online renewal is an option for many common vehicle types. Standard passenger cars, small commercial trucks, motorcycles that aren't exclusively for off-road use.
But there are restrictions.
Yes, crucial restrictions. You can only renew online if both your mailing address and your insurance company information are exactly the same as what the DMV already has on file for you. No changes allowed for online renewal.
Address and insurance must be current in their system.
Correct. If they are, the website will display the fee you pay with a credit card, and the renewed registration sticker and document are mailed to you. Again, allow about 2 weeks for delivery.
And the classic option, renewing in person at a DMV office.
You can always do that. Go to a state or county motor vehicle office. Bring your completed MV82 form. Now, the manual includes a specific rule here that's worth noting if you're having someone else go for you.
Like sending your spouse or friend.
Exactly.
Oh.
If you are sending someone else to the DMV office to submit the renewal form for you, even if it's your spouse or another family member, that person must bring their original New York driver's license, learner permit, or non-driver ID card.
Their own original ID.
Yes. And they also need to bring either the original or a clear photocopy of your ID as the person actually registering the vehicle. And most importantly, the application form, the MV82, must be signed by you, the registrant. The person bringing it in can't sign it for you.
That makes sense. The registrant has to be the one signing the application.
Yep.
Okay, practical rule if you're helping someone out. Let's shift gears again to perhaps the most legally critical piece day to day. Insurance.
Yes. This rule is absolute and non-negotiable in New York State. Your vehicle must be covered by acceptable liability insurance for the entire period it is registered.
The entire time.
Well,
Even if it's like parked in your garage for the winter and not being driven at all.
Even then, if it has New York plates and a valid registration, it absolutely must be insured. No exceptions based on usage.
Okay. And the manual lists the specific minimum liability coverage amounts required by the state.
It does. Let's go through those numbers because they're important.
Okay, let's hear them.
All right. Per incident, the minimum liability coverage you need is $50,000 for the death of one person in an accident,
$50,000.
$100,000 for the death of 2 or more persons in one accident,
$100,000 for multiple deaths.
$25,000 for injury to one person, $50,000 for injury to 2 or more persons, and finally, $10,000 for property damage caused in one accident.
Those are the minimums. $5,100 for death, $2,550 for injury, and $10 for property damage.
Exactly. And it's worth noting, these are just the minimums required by law. Many people, wisely, choose to carry higher coverage limits for better protection.
Good point. So those are the baseline requirements. Now, if you decide you're going to take the car off the road for an extended period, maybe store it, and you want to stop paying for insurance on it, what's the absolute necessary first step to avoid penalties?
You must surrender your vehicle plates at a DMV office before your insurance coverage expires or is discontinued.
Yeah.
You cannot let the insurance lapse while the plates are still active.
Surrender the plates first. And you mentioned that receipt earlier.
Yes. And remember that crucial FS6T form. You absolutely need to get that DMV universal receipt when you turn in your plates. That is your official proof you surrendered them on that date.
Okay. What happens if you don't do that? If you let your insurance lapse while the vehicle is still registered with plates on it?
The consequences are pretty significant. First, there's a civil penalty assessed by the state for each day the vehicle was registered but uninsured.
A daily fine. Ouch.
Yes. On top of that, your vehicle registration will be suspended. And if the vehicle remained uninsured while registered for 90 days or more, your New York driver's license will also be suspended.
Wow, license suspension too.
Yes, unless you had already surrendered the plates before that 90-day mark. The manual also really stresses that you need to respond immediately to any letters you might get from the DMV asking about your insurance status. Ignoring those inquiry letters can just make the situation much worse.
That sounds like a very expensive and inconvenient mistake to let insurance lapse on a registered car. Is there any difference for motorcycles regarding turning in the plate when insurance stops?
Yes, that's a specific note in the manual just for motorcycle owners. While motorcycles absolutely must be insured while they're registered, just like cars, the state does not require you to surrender the motorcycle plate if your insurance coverage is discontinued for some reason.
Interesting. So motorcycles are a carve-out for the plate surrender rule, but not the insurance requirement itself.
Correct. Still need insurance if registered, but no mandatory plate return if insurance stops.
And does this insurance rule only apply to people who live in New York?
Not at all. The manual is very clear. These insurance requirements, specifically meeting NY's minimum liability coverage standards, apply to anyone who drives or even allows a vehicle to be driven in New York State. It doesn't matter if you live here or are just visiting. If you're operating a vehicle on NY roads, it needs to meet the standard.
Okay, so out-of-state drivers need to be aware of NY's minimums too. And the penalty for actually driving uninsured or letting someone else drive your uninsured car is pretty harsh statewide.
It is one of the most severe penalties the DMV can impose related to insurance. If you are convicted of driving an uninsured vehicle in New York, or if you knowingly allow someone else to drive your uninsured vehicle, your driver's license, or if you're from out of state, your privilege to drive in New York will be revoked.
Revoked. For how long?
For a minimum of 1 year. The same 1-year revocation applies if you are involved in any kind of traffic crash, and the DMV determines afterwards that you didn't have the required insurance coverage at the time of the crash.
Revoked for at least a year. That's a huge impact on your life just from not having insurance, a very serious consequence.
Absolutely. Don't drive uninsured in New York.
Okay, shifting gears again to another mandatory state requirement, vehicle inspection.
Right. Inspections are required to make sure vehicles operating on the roads meet basic safety and, in many cases, emission standards. There are specific timelines for when inspections are due.
When do they need to happen?
Okay, if you buy a vehicle that's being sold in New York, it needs to be inspected within 30 days of the sale date. However, as we mentioned, if you bought it from an NY dealer, it should already have a valid inspection sticker.
Because the dealer had to inspect it before selling it.
Exactly, within the 30 days prior to the sale.
Okay, but what if you bought it from an out-of-state dealer or maybe a private seller here in NY?
If it's from a non-NY dealer or a private seller, then you must get it inspected within 10 days after you complete the vehicle registration process at the DMV.
10 days after registration. And that's where that sticker comes in handy.
Yes, that's when you ask for the special 10-day time extension sticker, the VS1077, when you're registering. That gives you the legal cover to drive to the inspection station within those 10 days.
Got it. And how about new residents again, bringing a car from another state with an existing inspection?
Your valid out-of-state inspection sticker is good here until it expires, or for 1 year from the date it was issued, whichever happens first. Once that period is up, you'll need to get a New York inspection.
Okay. Once you've had that first NY inspection, when are they due in the future?
Annually.
Annually, yes. You need to get it inspected sometime before the current inspection certificate expires each year. Also, the manual notes that an inspection is required anytime there's a change in the registrant, the person whose name is on the registration.
Even if the sticker isn't expired yet.
That's what it implies, yes. A change of registrant triggers an inspection requirement. Now, the manual lists a few very specific kind of niche situations where a vehicle might be exempt from needing an inspection when it's sold at retail. What are those exceptions?
They are quite narrow, yeah. It includes transfers to certain approved welfare to work programs, also the transfer of a vehicle that's just a chassis without a body, vehicles sold factory direct to an out-of-state address, vehicles transferred specifically for registration in another state or country, vehicles designated solely as scrap, and vehicles being transferred to a long-term lessee as part of a lease buyout agreement.
So, pretty specific cases. For most standard used car purchases between individuals or from dealers, you're going to need that inspection.
That's right.
Where do you actually go to get this inspection done?
You need to take it to an official state-licensed inspection station. You'll recognize them by the yellow and black signs that say Official Motor Vehicle Inspection Station.
Okay, look for the sign.
Yes. And the manual also mentions there are separate specialized inspection stations for heavy vehicles like trucks and buses, and also different stations specifically licensed for motorcycles.
Good to know if you have one of those.
And here's another point that actually ties back to your registration renewal. Remember signing that renewal form?
Yeah.
When you sign your registration renewal application, you are actually certifying, under penalty of perjury, that your vehicle has been inspected as required by law.
Oh, wow. So you're legally stating it's already done when you sign for a renewal.
Exactly. Which means you absolutely need to get that inspection done before you sign and send in your renewal, not plan to do it afterwards. Planning ahead is really key here, especially in case your vehicle, doesn't pass the inspection on the first try and needs repairs.
Right, you need buffer time.
Mm-hmm.
What's the actual difference in outcome at the station passing versus failing?
Pretty straightforward. If your vehicle passes the safety and any required emissions tests, you get a new inspection sticker for your windshield with the expiration date. If it fails, you receive a rejection notice that should detail why it failed.
And then what?
Generally, you're required to get the necessary repairs done to fix the issues identified on the rejection notice, and then you have to take the vehicle back for a reinspection to confirm the problems are fixed.
Okay. Are there any provisions mentioned, like waivers, for vehicles that maybe keep failing the emissions test even after repairs?
Yes, the manual does mention the possibility of an emissions waiver, but it's not automatic. This can potentially apply to vehicles that are subject to the high enhanced or the OBD2 emissions inspection, which covers most modern gasoline vehicles if they fail the test.
What are the conditions for a waiver?
To potentially qualify for a one-year waiver, you must demonstrate that you made a genuine repair attempt specifically aimed at fixing the cause of the emissions failure, and the cost of those qualifying repairs must total at least $450.
At least $450 spent trying to fix it just for the emissions part.
Yes, on specific qualifying emissions-related repairs. If it still fails after that documented $450 plus repair attempt, you might be eligible for a waiver for that year.
$450 minimum spend just to potentially get a waiver if it still fails. That's good to know as a possibility, but sounds tough. What are the main types of emissions inspections covered in NY?
Okay, for most gasoline-powered vehicles, excluding motorcycles, the required annual safety inspection includes an exhaust emissions test.
Most gas cars get emissions tested. Are there exceptions?
Yes. The emissions test part is generally waived for gasoline vehicles that are 26 model years old or older, also for vehicles that are less than 2 model years old, and for vehicles registered with historical plates. Those categories typically only need the safety portion of the inspection.
Okay, very old, very new, or historic plates get a pass on emissions. What about diesel vehicles?
Diesels are handled a bit differently. All diesel vehicles, even if they're registered in another state but operating in NY, can be subject to random roadside emissions tests conducted by the state police or the Department of Transportation. Additionally, heavier diesel vehicles, those with a gross vehicle weight rating over 8 to 500 pounds, are also subject to a specific annual diesel fuel emissions inspection as part of their regular inspection cycle.
Got it. So safety checks are universal. Emissions checks depend on fuel type, age, weight, and registration class. Mandatory stuff. Finally, the manual includes a section on what to do if things go wrong, specifically if you have issues with certain businesses related to your vehicle.
Yes, the DMV actually regulates several types of businesses: motor vehicle dealers, official inspection stations, and auto repair shops.
So they have oversight.
They do. The manual advises you to look for their official registration or license certificates, which should be posted visibly, along with the required signs indicating they are licensed by the state. That tells you they fall under DMV regulation.
Okay. And if you have a complaint against one of these regulated businesses, a dealer, a shop, an inspection station, what does the manual suggest as the process for handling it?
The recommended first step is always to try and work it out directly with the management at the business itself. Give him a chance to make it right.
Try to resolve it amicably first.
Exactly. But if you can't reach a satisfactory resolution that way, then you can contact the DMV's Bureau of Consumer and Facility Services to file a formal complaint.
How do you contact them?
You can call them. The number provided is 1-518-474-8943, and they take calls on weekdays between 8:30 a.m. and 4:15 p.m. Or you can write out your complaint and mail it to a specific address, which is Vehicle Safety Services, DMV, Bureau of Consumer and Facility Services, Box 2700 ESP, Albany, New York, 1220700.
Okay, phone or mail are the options if direct resolution fails. Is there anything else really notable or maybe surprising about filing a complaint, especially with repair shops?
Yes, and this is a detail the manual highlights that seems really quite strict, particularly for complaints against auto repair shops. According to state regulations, the DMV can only accept and investigate a complaint against a repair shop if it's received within a very specific time frame.
What's the time frame?
It has to be received by the DMV within 90 days or 3,000 miles of the date the repairs were completed, whichever comes first.
Wow, 90 days or 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. That is a really tight window.
It is surprisingly short. It means you have to discover an issue with the repair, try to troubleshoot it, attempt to resolve it directly with the shop, and then decide to file a formal complaint with the DMV, all within potentially just 3 months or a few thousand miles.
Yeah, that requires you to be pretty diligent and proactive if you suspect something is wrong with a recent repair. You can't wait around.
No, you really can't. That deadline is firm.
So we've really dug deep into Chapter 3 of the NY DMV Driver's Manual today. We've covered the core responsibilities, right? From getting a vehicle titled and registered, navigating all those necessary proofs depending on where you bought it.
Understanding the critical role of continuous insurance, the inspection requirements, and timelines.
Checking for lines, those specific disclosure rules based on model year, and even knowing the process and those limitations for filing a complaint against a regulated business like a repair shop.
This truly is the foundational knowledge, laid out straight from the official source, for legally owning and operating a vehicle here in New York. It's definitely a complex system, no doubt, but understanding these core requirements is what keeps you on the right side of the rules.
It really is. And, looking back at all these layers, we discussed the different forms. The specific proofs needed depending on the seller, that crucial need to check for liens, those exact model year cutoffs for disclosures.
The absolute requirement for insurance, even when the car is just parked, the serious consequences if you let it lapse, those strict inspection timelines and rules.
And even that surprisingly short window for repair shop complaints.
It really does drive home the point, doesn't it? Having a vehicle, especially in a state like New York with detailed regulations, isn't just about the freedom of driving.
No, it's not just about the driving itself.
It comes with this whole intricate web of ongoing legal and, let's face it, bureaucratic responsibilities that you, the owner or operator, have to manage pretty much from the moment you get the keys. It's a whole different layer that comes with ownership.
It really is a significant commitment far beyond just the purchase price and putting gas in it.
Okay.
Definitely something worth internalizing if you own or are planning to own a vehicle here.